We are to have conversations with people who have different points of view. All right, so our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is a woman by the name of Roberta Schiff. She's a longtime coordinator of the Mid-Hudson Vegetarian Society, appears as Veggie for the Hudson Valley Vegans. So, without any further ado, here she is, Roberta Schiff.
I know you wanted a complete bio so you could talk more, but...
Well, you know how I am. I just can't shut up.
Hi, everyone. Today I am Veggie, and my main job as Veggie is to answer questions. And I created this a few years ago. I know Joan Zacharias came up from Tampa to be here today. Joan, are you around? She was here earlier, and it was when I was with Joan at the Tampa Veg Fest, and I said, I have an idea. I'd like to have a very simple table next year, just answering people's questions about becoming vegan and staying vegan. But I think I need something to get their attention. And I got the idea to create Veggie. And I came back the next year with the hat and the banner and the handouts, and so I've been doing it at various Veg Fests and expos ever since. So what I'd like to do today is invite anyone who's listening to come up with a question. And we have another microphone. Yeah, right over there. And so if you are not yet vegan, but you're thinking about it and you have a question about how to take that last step, or, as we do have a lot of vegans here, if you are vegan and you have questions about dealing with other people, come up and ask it, and I'll answer it, and we'll see what any others listening have to say too. So, all right, you have a question. All right, Eric. This is Eric, who's been doing the sound. So if you haven't been hearing squeals and squeaks and buzzes, it's because of Eric.
Okay, the most common question I'm ever asked, and I'd like to ask it to Veggie, is, how do you get your protein?
Oh, okay. Actually, I really don't mind answering that question over and over and over because it means people are thinking. So I don't cringe when people ask that. I do cringe when people say, I used to be a vegetarian. And so I'll tell you how I handle that one too. But first of all, the eternal question, where do you get your protein? And how many of you have had that asked to you? Okay, all right. And so you want to give a comprehensive answer, but you don't want to go on. They don't want to hear 20 minutes of it. So you have to come up with ways of being very succinct. So one of the ones I have come up with over the years is that, well, you did take biology once, because almost everyone has taken a biology class, and you learned that plants are made of cells, and that cells are made of proteins. So all food has protein. Well, Diet Pepsi doesn't have much protein, but anything that is a fruit, a vegetable, or a grain has protein. And even though the flesh of animals has a higher amount of protein than some vegetable foods, it does not mean that you have to get your protein from animals. Now, the Dairy Council and the meat industry put this out for decades, and it's become a very strongly entrenched belief that you have to have complete protein and you can only get it from animal foods. Of course, if you have been a long-time vegan yourself and you tell them that you haven't had, what did Bob say, for 20 years which is really 30. I thought that was pretty good. Or was it 30 that's really 20? Anyway, if you're a long-time vegan and you're looking good and feeling good, they can tell that you're not suffering from protein deficiency. Another good thing is to ask, well, you've probably known people who are in poor health. And you've probably known people that have cancer, heart disease, have had strokes, have diabetes, have bad backs, have erectile dysfunction, have all kinds of other circulatory problems. How many people do you know with a diagnosed protein deficiency? And they usually draw blank. So that's one of the biggest things that we can do as vegans is a little bit of education. We have to learn, many of us, when we first become vegan, we're just filled with this convert's fervor. And we want to tell everybody everything we know all the time, and it backfires. So you have to learn to back off, to say things when appropriate, and to say things briefly. If you are asked while you're eating with a group of people, this is a tough one because people don't want to hear a lot about this when they're eating. It's okay to answer the protein question, but it's not okay to go into the descriptions of animal protein when people are eating. So you can say, I'm glad you have an interest, and let's talk about this a little later after dinner. And okay, I'm going to stop again. Who has a question? Come on up here. We have 2 microphones, so if you have something you'd like to say, come on up. All right.
I just came to adjust the mic for you.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. First, tell us your name.
Isabella.
Hi, Isabella.
How do we get food when there was no food before?
How did we get food when there was no food before? Okay.
That's out of my realm.
All right. Okay. Well, actually, Isabella, the first kind of living things were plants. And the basis of all food is plants. So when animals finally came around, there were plants for them to eat. And the first living things lived in the ocean. And there were plants in the ocean. They didn't look like carrots and potatoes and kale and things that we think about. They looked like seaweed. That's because they were. But they were there for the first animals to eat. So actually, the food was there before there were the animals to eat the food. But that's a marvelous question. No one has asked it before. And so I'll challenge the rest of you. Who else can ask a question that's never been asked before? Now, where do what? Come on up here. All right, say it just a little louder then.
Where do you get your fiber?
Oh, where do I get my fiber? Okay, all right. Fiber, again, comes from plants, and it is, meat has absolutely no fiber in it because the animals have eaten plants and they have digested them, and the plants make the muscle tissue, but there's no fiber left in it. So you can eat fish and chicken and beef and lamb and rabbits and dogs and anything else constantly and get no fiber. So that's why a lot of people have digestive problems. They eat a lot of meat. They eat very refined carbohydrates from which the fiber is gone. It's all chopped up. And have you seen that Phillips Colon Health lady on TV with her blue sweatshirt and saying, "I'm regular," and she's on the double-decker bus? Who has gas? Who has constipation? And these people are raising their hands, and she's giving them Phillips fiber gummies so that they can get their fiber. And this has been going on in the way we live in developed countries for a long time. I once bought a box of Farm Journal magazines from the 1940s. And that was right when my daughter was going to start veterinary school, so I thought she would enjoy reading them and learning about the animals and so on. And instead she said, "Mom, were people really very constipated back then?" Because the magazine had many ads for X-Lax and similar products. So fiber is really important. How many of you have heard Dr. Milton Mills talk? Okay, I'll put in a little plug. We are bringing Dr. Mills up to the Hudson Valley to Rhinebeck on Saturday, February 25th. He'll be speaking at 2 o'clock at the Rhinebeck Town Hall. We'll have vegan appetizers and desserts. If you want to take a nice trip to the Hudson Valley, we would welcome you. I have a few flyers with me. If anyone thinks they could come and would like a flyer, I'll give it to you. One of the talks that Milton does is about fiber, and he does it every year at Vegetarian Summerfest. And a few years ago, he said, "Why don't you help me with my fiber talk?" And I'll tell them all about why they need it, and then you can talk for a few minutes about where to get it. So this talk that he has is called Put Your Colon to Work for You, and we've done it for about 5 years now. And then he said to me, "Well, why don't you make a few little vegan appetizers and desserts that are high in fiber so we can show them what we mean?" Okay, so he was about to start the talk, and there was a man looking at the placard on the door. And remember, the talk is called Put Your Colon to Work for You. And I said, "Yeah, come here. Dr. Mills is a great speaker, and there'll be food too." And he said, "But this is about the colon." So you have a question? All right. I'm sorry. Thank you. April. I went backwards. Okay. Thank you. Where do I get my B12? Okay. I do take a B12 supplement, the kind that goes under the tongue. Dr. Michael Greger, if you know him, and if you read his nutritionfacts.org online, it's a really good post. He puts something out about 2 or 3 times a week. You don't have to open it every time you get it, because anytime you open it, all the past ones are there. And he and several of the other leading vegan nutritionists and physicians advocate that we take a B12 supplement. Not just us vegans, but everybody. Why? B12 is made by a soil organism. It is not intrinsic to animal flesh. If you have animals that are grazing, they will of course get B12, which gets incorporated into their bodies. If we went out and pulled carrots out of the garden and ate them without washing them, we probably would get enough B12 too. So it's good for everyone, vegan or meat eater or anything in between, to take a B12 supplement. That said, a good diet with a variety of vegetables and grains, whole grains, and some fruits. You don't have to take a plethora of supplements. It's good to spend your money in the produce aisle, not the supplement aisle. So those were two good questions. And again, thank you for the correction. April 25th for Dr. Mills. Yes? Two things. Okay. Oh, here, come on up. We can get the microphone back up.
How do you answer when people say people have always eaten meat since forever, and people are naturally omnivorous? And how do you answer when people say the Bible said that we have dominion over animals and that the Bible says we should eat meat or something like that?
Okay. Okay. The Bible does say we have dominion over animals, but dominion can be translated in many ways, one of which is to care for, and it's a responsibility for that we are responsible for their welfare, not that they are ours to do anything we want. Also, in text, you can read it to say that yes, we should eat meat, and you can read it to say no, it's not a good idea. The original diet, as laid out in Genesis chapter 1 verse 29, is that God has given us every green living plant for food. It was only after the flood that people began to eat meat because there was not enough vegetation around. But if you do, and we could have a whole day to study this topic, and but there are many references to treating your animals well, to feed your animals before you feed yourself, to not let two animals of different strengths pull a plow together. There is more in biblical text about kindness to animals than there is about eating animals. Also, the system of factory farming was completely unknown and unthought of and inconceivable back in those days. So I think if any of the biblical prophets came back today and saw what actually happens to the animals, they would be horrified. So that's a short answer to a long question. If you want to know more, go. They had a table here, Jewish Vegetarians of North America, and go to their website, and also to the Christian Vegetarian Association. They are out there tabling at all kinds of Christian concerts and rallies. It's tough doing religious outreach. I know. I've been bringing vegan food to my synagogues for pardon me? Oh, that's I'm listening to Claudia from the other one, yeah, and so yeah, I've been doing religious outreach for a long time, and made some progress, but not as much as I would like to. A week ago Saturday, I was asked to give the talk at the synagogue on the Torah portion, which was the beginning of Leviticus, which is about the sacrifices. So I thought, all right, they asked me to do this particular one. They know what they're going to get, and they got it. And I thought I'd have more people being kind of hostile, but they weren't. Now, did they come up to me last Friday night and say they would become vegan? Not yet. Okay, my time up? Yeah, okay. All right, okay. Thank you so much, and I'll still take other questions.
Excellent. Very knowledgeable indeed. Very knowledgeable indeed. And if there were any questions that were unanswered, you, of course, can feel free to approach her on your own at some point between now and 6 o'clock. And also, if you go to the website veganfuturenow.com, there's an entire section there devoted to answering the objections to veganism. So we've got the the protein issue, the plants have feelings issue, everything that you've ever been asked. It's all there, and it's all thoroughly researched and backed up and all that. So lots of information out there. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is a fellow by the name of Dr.